it's Wolf again, and over here at the right side of the map we have ASD from the team FX Open. You can call him ASD FXO. His ID was chosen because ASDF are the first 4 characters on the center of the keyboard if you have the QWERTY layout. And of course his opponent Alicia down here at the bottom left from the team Slayers. I used to call him the Chosen One because he was the only Protoss in the round of 8 in the Super Tournament. So he has been up and down and around. He's kind of been all over the place. He's a very inconsistent player. At a time, a lot of players were saying, oh, he's really got this down. He's actually one of the best Protosses out there. I feel like he really understands the game well. But to be perfectly honest, if you felt that way and you kind of thinking about it and you're like, well, I'm not really sure anymore, the reason why is if you go back and watch the VODs of Alicia, you'll notice that he's very similar to MC. He actually does a lot of timing attacks. He's done plenty of Void Ray all-ins in his time. And he looked strong because he was winning, but the reality is he was not showing really super strong macro games at the time. Not like the players that we have today, like Parting, for example. MC has actually switched into more of a macro-oriented style. Not always, but he has kind of changed his playstyle up a little bit. So that's just one thing to say about Alicia. Really curious to see what he's going to do on this map. Now, Dual Sight is actually a map that Protoss players hate against Terran. They don't really like it very much against Zerg, but the win rate for Protoss, I believe, is less than 45% on this map last time I checked. And the reason why is because there's 2 entrances to the natural. They're very wide open. It's hard to hold the famed 1-1-1 build, the Tank Marine Banshee build. It's quite difficult to hold. Even just Tank Marine with SCVs is quite difficult as well. I'll go back down here and highlight the natural here for you guys. There's 2 entrances. There's several places to start pushing bunkers in. And if you go for a 2 racks, for example, with just Marines and Marauders, Force Fields, you have to do several Force Fields here or several here. There's a line of sight blocker, so it's hard to tell if units are coming from this direction. You have to have units out there spotting. It's very, very difficult to handle the approach. And it's a map that Protoss players really dislike taking a third on as well, because the third base here is very far away. It's the most reasonable third, it feels like, to take. But there's a third up here at the top left that you can take, but it's also kind of vulnerable to drop play. All the third bases on this map just feel far away and difficult to take for Protosses and all matchups, so that's the reason why Protoss players have complained quite a bit about this map. Now, by the look of things, we're going to see ASD actually make a factory very shortly here and kill a Scantipede. That's unacceptable. Robotics Facility goes down for Alicia, so he's going to be doing a Gate Robo Gate expansion type build. My speaking is all over the place today, guys. I don't know whose English is better, John and Mr. Che's or mine. Now Alicia over here has taken the watchtower. Meanwhile, the scouting worker of ASD is lurking around, and a command center is made. Second barracks going down, so he's banking up some gas here, and I think this indicates he's going to do an expansion off of these 2 barracks, and then make a factory and follow up with siege tanks. This is becoming more popular. This build doesn't yet have a name, as far as I know. I guess you could call it the 2-rack siege expand, because you expand with siege mode on the tanks. It's very difficult to break, because these earlier timing attacks off of 1 or 2 bases from Protoss often rely on sentries, and siege tanks just kill sentries so quickly, and you can't force field siege tanks. It just doesn't work. And does get in there. Let's see exactly how much he was able to see. He actually was able to see everything. He saw the second gateway and the robo. No Nexus as well, so he might be thinking, what if Alicia all-ins me, or what if Alicia goes for a Immortal all-in? I gotta be careful about that. Meanwhile, double reactor going down for ASD, so he's going to be going very Marine tank heavy here. I do not think either of these reactors are going to be for the factory. I think we're going to see a tech lab. There it is. So yeah, this is going to be very siege tank Marine heavy. This is becoming more popular on this map. People were always doing the 1 base timing attacks on this map. Then people started to figure out, actually, you know, you can do these siege tank expansion builds. Mech-ish type play is quite popular on this map. Marine tank play can be quite good. It's really easy to siege up this location. The third base here, you can kind of start putting siege tanks here. You can even have siege tank back behind this area to support them as well. So it's hard for Zealots to walk around there and hit those tanks. It's hard for Immortals to really close the distance. They have to go down a ramp into siege tank fire if the siege tanks are positioned in this location. So it's hard to hold that third against that type of Marine tank pressure. Now siege mode is on the way. You can see the tank is being produced here for ASD. So this is a unique build. Maybe if you're a Terran player, take note of this. Try using this build on the ladder sometime. It can work. It works on certain maps better than others. For example, this would really work quite well on Shattered Temple. The center of the map is not where you want to be with your tanks, though. You want to try to siege up your opponent's choke point, and also make sure that you siege up your choke point correctly. You could also do this build on the map like Shakuris, but again, the center of the map is a little bit vulnerable there. So you have to make sure you know exactly where to have your tanks. You have to be on the ball with your scouting, make sure that you siege up in time if your opponent's moving out on the map. Now Alicia is going up to 4 gateways, and his Nexus, of course, just finished. Chrono boosting out Immortals here. And he does have a time where he could pressure a little bit. In fact, even as an observer to see this, so I'm kind of surprised he's not going to move out and try to put some pressure on, because, yeah, there's a lot of Marines here, but with good control, even with siege mode done, he could poke, do some damage, and then return home. These 4 sentries wouldn't really do a whole lot in the battle. These 2 gateways are finishing up. This may be when he decides to put some pressure on as soon as those gateways are there, and in fact, yeah, he is going to make a pylon here as well, and this Marine just barely does not see that probe. Now Alicia is Guardian Shield going up here. Actually pretty smart, considering that there could be tanks around. He does have this observer to spot the Marines, but he can't see everything, and, you know, actually it makes sense to just use a Guardian Shield at that moment, just to be safe and careful. I think that's actually reasonable of Alicia. Not going to be using that many force fields anyways, considering that there's tanks out. So what he's going to do here is he's going to try to poke forward. Now, this push isn't going to work, but I like that he's putting this forward because it means his opponent may have to make an additional bunker. He gets some scouting of the exact composition. He actually is going to be able to trap some units here because a huge misstep by ASD reaching out with those units. So, oops. Big mistake. Right now, ASD's tank count getting a little bit higher. Robotic support bay is on the way back at home. ASD is going to get up to 4 tanks, and when those 4 tanks are out, doesn't matter how many Immortals he has, he's just not going to really be able to engage that. But I like that pressure he put on because he thought, maybe I'll get some Marines. I might be able to do that. That's not necessarily what I'm going to get, but I'm also going to scare him a little bit. He may pull some SCVs off, freaking out, not really sure how many units I have. And I'm just going to go home. As long as he doesn't lose the sentries or lose any units, he didn't even lose his pylons. He's actually totally fine. Back at home, we do have 2 forges going up, and a lucky SCV scout does come in here. Probably that same SCV from earlier. So he's going to see the forges going up. And he's already got +1 on the way. He may actually start a second evolution chamber, or engineering bay, I should say, as a result of seeing this. As you can see, he's going up to 5 barracks here. He may start adding some Marauders into the mix. I think that's a good idea, considering that his opponent's going to be taking up to Colossus. And, you know, he's seen that, so he's actually getting a few medevacs out first before making any Vikings. And in total, yeah, I think he's just going to get these 2. You see Marauder production has started here, as well as Stim. No second engineering bay just yet. We see Alicia holding the tower on the left side, surprisingly not holding the right one. Factory is going out here for a scout. Notice that Alicia has not attempted to take a 3rd base here. He's very heavily 2-basing with powerful, strong units that he has chosen based on the composition he's been able to consistently scout with this observer. He's not playing any guessing games. He's not going to take a risky 3rd. He's just going to design an army to beat the army that ASD has. He'll know if ASD makes a command center. He'll be able to see that. He'll be able to know if it's being taken out. I really would like to see him have this watchtower as well, but he's going to know that. Meanwhile, of course, ASD's composition is getting stronger and stronger as well. We do see the first 2 Vikings coming out here, so yeah, just making 2 medevacs. Surprisingly, still, like I said, no second engineering bay. He is starting armor now. A lot of players will get the second E-bay and the armory at the same time and time that out to start 2-2 together after the armor finishes, but could get the upgrades a little bit faster if you wanted to. As you can see, combat shields have been started, and this one SCV is just being so good at scouting. You wanted to see the composition, you wanted to see how many Colossi is he making, is he even making Colossi, did he stop once the robotics was scouted, is he switching into Templar tech, so that's what he's kind of trying to see. Of course, the factory is here to see no 3rd base as well. Charge being started now, and with the Twilight Council completed, he's got a really nice timing here. He's going to be able to get 2-2 Chrono Boost out very quickly, and with these upgrades finishing, he's actually going to be ahead at 1-1 against just +1 of ASD. ASD's armor, like I mentioned earlier, is about a 1/3 of the way done, and Ghost Academy going down. No additional E-bays. And this is one thing that a lot of Terrans have been complaining about recently in this matchup, is the upgrades for Protoss are so hard to deal with. But I have to say, ASD could have afforded to get some upgrades out a little bit earlier. He just decided not to. And in this case, it's really going to come back to hurt him, because he's going to be dealing with 2-2 way ahead of his 2-2. He's going to move out here and get aggressive right now with, looks like 3 Vikings. Fourth Viking is somewhere around here. Looks like he messed up his queuing somehow, but can have an odd number of Vikings. There are 3 Colossi out, and with this small amount of Vikings, he actually can do a lot of damage because there are very few Stalkers in this composition. Meanwhile, a drop is going to target down the Robotics Bay. You know, I just don't really agree with this. He's losing so many Marines as a result. But if Alicia just 1As into his main, he may start losing units at his Nexus. Now the Siege Tank count is up to just 4. He actually stopped Siege Tank production at 4. That's actually pretty smart. He's mixed in Marauders instead. Oh no, he let the Siege get up. He's actually just barely going to be able to hit the Nexus with 1 Siege Tank. He's going to be able to attack the Nexus and then go back when the units move forward. So this is a really scary position for Alicia. He's going to have to attack here soon. I'm kind of surprised we don't see any bunkering of any kind, any fortifications here. It looks like the Zealots are going to charge in. Viking is going to work on the Colossus, but the Colossus are already doing their damage. And 2-2 is not complete, but the upgrades are 1-1 to 1-1, and with the Siege Tank support there, it looks like Alicia is going to get destroyed in this battle, and that is going to be game. Never let your opponent siege up the natural. Always push them back by time. Meanwhile, of course, this drop has gone off in the main yet again. And Alicia just falling apart here to the multitasking of ASD. So that is going to be GG any moment now. As you can see, +2 finishing, but that's not going to work for Alicia. GG.